Hey folks, Bridges here. Quick video to show you how to make the cow catcher for the miniature train. So we're on part 9. We're going to start with a sketch. I'm going to choose to make this sketch on the bottom plane. We're going to start with the bottom of the cow catcher, then we're going to loft it up. A loft is interesting because it's similar to an extrude, but instead of going in a straight line, it changes shape through space to go from one sketch to another. It'll make more sense when you see it. So I'm sketching on the bottom plane. Let's start with a line. And a big focus for this particular part is going to be using the sketch constraints. So I'm going to make this line, and as I make it, you can see that it's got this little blue line sort of underneath of it that moves with it. Now if I make it a little bit up, not horizontal, that blue line goes away. So I'm going to go ahead and click that in on purposely not horizontal. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is click this first constraint up here in my list of constraints at the top. This first one is called horizontal vertical, and it explains, if I hover on it, it explains what it is. It basically makes a line horizontal or vertical, or it makes 2 points horizontal or vertical from each other. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on the horizontal vertical button, and I'm going to click on the line, and it's going to make it horizontal. And that's what the symbol means. Now, if I were to press escape out of everything, if I were to ever see a symbol like that and click on that, it tells me down at the bottom right that that is a horizontal constraint. And I could delete it if I wanted to by right-clicking and deleting that. But I don't want to delete it. I want to put it back so it's there. Cool. Next, I'm going to put a point on that line. And the reason I'm going to put a point on that line is because I want it to be centered on the origin. So by putting a point on the line, I can do it one of two ways. I can choose create point, and then I can come down here and I can just scoot along the line until it gives me the center point, the midpoint, which is designated by a triangle. And there it is. The triangle means center point constraint. Okay. If I purposely put it off of the center like that, I can now come back through and I can make it a midpoint by choosing the midpoint constraint. Now, I do have to click two things. I have to click on the point, and then I have to say it should be the midpoint of this line. And it snaps to go to the middle. So there we have it. Now we've got a horizontal line with a point on the center. At this point, we can move it around, and we could drag it and drop it right there on the origin if we wanted to. But another way of doing that is to say that this belongs in the same place as that, and that's with a coincident constraint. And that is right up here, a coincident. It means it constrains the position of 2 points together or a point on a line. Now you'll notice when I click this midpoint, it has a coincidental constraint, meaning that this point is on this line. So we'll do the same thing, coincidental constraint with this point and the origin. Okay, so, and you'll notice that it turned white. That means it has a place in space, absolutely. Okay, what it doesn't have is length. So let's look at our drawing, and we're looking at the baseline of the bottom, which is right down here, 1.8. So let's use our dimension tool and say the length of this line should be, whoa, I was way too big, 1.8. So now I can zoom in, resize it to fit my screen, and I'm actually going to bring that dimension up above. Okay. At this point, I'm going to bring my two lines, vertical lines coming straight down right here. I'm not going to give them a length yet. I'll do that in a minute. And right here. Okay, and I might as well finish the shape off by coming down and putting a point here and putting a point here. It's almost like a home plate shape in baseball or softball. Right. So you can see that some of my lines are blue. That means they're not fully constrained. That means I can move things around on them. Okay, they don't have a length yet. So what we want to do is we want to say that this line on the side and this other line, we want to make those the same length. So to do that, we're going to use another constraint called equal. And you can hover and it tells you what it's going to do. It's going to make two lines the same length no matter what. So I'm going to choose the equal constraint, and then I'll choose the two lines, 1 and 2. And now they're the same length, and you can see that with the little equal sign right there. And when I remember, I can click on that, I can click on, maybe I can click on it, and it tells me down here that it's an equal constraint. And it also shows me the other thing that it's equal with. That's handy. Let's put a length on that line now, and that is a distance of, I use my D key, 0.25. And because they're the same, the other one changed size as well. And the last thing is these two blue lines. It doesn't know where this point should be. But we know from looking at our dimensions, and we know that the distance from the base to the point should be 1 inch. That almost does it, but I can see that they're still blue. So when I try to move something that's blue, it's not letting me move it. Oh, wait, there it goes. It's letting me move it side to side. So there's no X constraint on this point here. Okay? So where do we want that point to be? Well, it's easy to see. It's easy to infer that this point should be vertical of that point. So once again, let's use the horizontal vertical constraint and say that that point should be vertical with that point. And now all of a sudden our part turns completely white. That means it's fully constrained, fully dimensioned. There's nothing that we can move or change. Everything's got a place and space to be. So we can say finish sketch. So that's great. Now I can look at it from the home view, and that's what we want. Now we're going to sketch the top. But the top is some distance above the bottom. It's not right on top of the bottom like that. It's going to be some distance above. And we look at our drawing here, and that distance off of the bottom is 0.75. That's called an offset. So we're going to offset the sketch up 0.75. And the way that we do that is we're going to use a construction plane. If you click the construct drop down, you'll see that there are several types of planes that you can add, or points, or axes, I should say, axes, and then points are down below. And we're going to do this first one, an offset plane. Once again, if you hover, it will give you a brief explanation of what it is. It's basically a plane that's parallel to an existing plane or face. So I'm going to choose an offset plane, and it says, what would you like to offset from? We don't want to choose the origin plane. Honestly, it probably wouldn't make a big difference, but since we have a known face, let's offset that shape. So we are going to offset off of this sketch that we've already sketched, and we're going to come up, so drag your arrow up, and as we go up, it's adding to the distance, the offset distance, and we're going to offset at a distance of, I'll just type in 0.75. So there we are. And you can verify that that's in the right place by looking at it from the front, and you can see that this is our original sketch, and this is our new plane that we're about to sketch on. So we're going to sketch on the new plane. Now we can see our old sketch, and that's because it's behind the sketch plane that we're on right now. This is our old sketch back here. This is our new sketch up here. It's transparent, so I can see the old one behind it. I'm going to quickly repeat the same process as I did before. I'm going to make a horizontal line. I don't know why I made it so long. Let me try that again. Maybe make it a little bit shorter. And the length of this line should be, I'm looking at my drawing, 1.2 inches. And it should be horizontal. I'll quickly place a midpoint on the line, looking for the triangle. There it is. Now I'll drag and drop that midpoint onto the origin. So now those two shapes share a midpoint on that baseline. All right. Once again, we're going to come down a distance of 0.25. Since I'm doing two of them and I want them to be the same, I'm going to do this shortcut and use a rectangle. I'm going to come down. My computer's a little laggy, isn't it? I'm going to come down a distance of 0.25. And I'm going to tab 0.25, enter. And now I'm just going to delete that little connector line in the middle. So there we go. And then lastly, I'm going to make the angled lines like this. And I'm going to dimension from the baseline to the point. Should be a distance of I'm not seeing it. I have to look for a second here. 0.75. Now, I notice that things are still blue, not fully constrained. Once again, it doesn't know where this line should be, this point should be, okay? And I need to say that it is vertical from the origin. Still something is blue, and I'm not sure why. So it doesn't know that that line, look at that, that's interesting. I didn't expect that. It doesn't know that this rectangle, remember I drew this as a rectangle? It doesn't know that this line should be coincident with this point. So we can use that coincident constraint right here to say that this line should end on this point. There we go. And then lastly, we've got one more blue line. Not quite sure why. Oh, well, I thought that making the rectangle was going to make sure that those lines are equal, but when I deleted that, it changed that. So I can once again say that equal constraint should be between this line, and now things should snap into place. Everything's white, everything's fully constrained, everything's centered on the origin. We should be able to finish the sketch now. I'm actually going to undo that last constraint. Okay? I'm going to purposely, you see this is too short right here. You see that? I'm going to purposely finish my sketch and look and predict something that might happen to you. Okay? So you can see I've got my two sketches. One of them obviously is incorrect, which we're going to fix in a few minutes. But for now, I want to show you the loft feature. It's not an extrude, because extrude would come straight up. It's not a revolve. A revolve would go around an axis. It's not a hole. It's not a pattern. But if we go create, loft, it wants us to select the two profiles to loft between, and that is 1 and 2. And when we say OK, it creates a shape that adapts through space to fit those profiles. And that's what we want. Now the next thing, we're going to be sketching on the front, on these front faces of the part. However, it's not letting me choose that as a sketch face. The reason for that is, do you remember when I made that top sketch purposely wrong? If there are any problems with your two sketches, this face won't be perfectly flat, and therefore we can't sketch on it. That's why we can't sketch on that. This side should be okay, and it is. We can sketch on that because I got that side of the drawing correct, sketch correct. This side needs some help. So to fix that, if you're getting this where I can't sketch on a face, you want to go back in and you want to edit sketch. On your first sketch, you want to edit your first sketch and make sure it's all fully constrained. And you want to edit your second sketch and make sure it's all fully constrained. And mine wasn't, was it? So we need to say that equal length between here and there. Maybe your problem was something else. Maybe you didn't have a horizontal vertical constraint on the point or something. But make sure that everything's square and in line with each other and finish the sketch. And now we should be able to sketch on those flat faces. Now, while we're sketching on the face, we basically want to make a picture frame effect. So we're going to use the offset sketch command. Offset takes a selected line or edge and draws a parallel line to that. So I'm going to offset, use the offset in my sketch, and I'm going to choose the edge of the sketch face. And by default, it wants to make your offset sketch bigger, but we actually want to make it smaller. And the distance there is 0.1, so it's going to be a negative 0.1. That's all we need to do on this sketch. Now, we're going to do something called a emboss or deboss. It's down here. Okay, it's basically a shallow extrusion, either in or out. We're going to choose that profile, and we're going to go in. I'm going to look at it from an angle. Oops. I'm going to look at it from a bit of an angle. We're going to go in. So we're going to choose deboss. And what is it that we're going to, what surface are we going to deboss from? That's what it wants us to select now. So select the plane that it was already in. It should be asking me now for a distance, and it's not, so I'm a little concerned. Oh, I see now. I misselected. Sorry about that. Once again, emboss. It asks, what are we going to emboss? This. Now I should have picked my face selector. My face is that. And I want to go back in a distance of 0.05, negative 0.05. I forgot my point. There it goes. Honestly, a much easier way to do that is just extrude cut. So I'll repeat the process on the other side. We're going to sketch on this flat plane. We're going to use the offset sketch. We're going to come in a distance of negative 0.1. We'll say okay to the, it's giving me errors. What's going on here? We'll try that again. We're going to offset this edge an inside distance of negative 0.1. And now we will finish sketch, and we will simply this time just extrude that shape in as a cut, a distance of negative 0.05. And there we have the same thing. Okay, so the last feature on this part is the pegs on the back. And I just now realized I forgot to hollow it out. That's okay, we'll do that as well. We're going to sketch on the back, and we're going to put 3 circles. One in the middle near the top, one near the bottom on the left, and one on the bottom near the right. Okay. They are all a diameter of, looks like 0.125. A diameter of 0.125. A diameter of 0.125. Oh, you know what I could use? I could use the equals constraint, couldn't I? Same size. This one and this one. There we go. Cool. Then we need to do their locations. So, looking at my drawing, it looks like in the 4th part of the drawing, it looks like I am a distance of 0.125 up and a distance of 0.275 across. So from here to the corner in the horizontal dimension, 0.275. Now, be careful. Don't go from the center to the line. Don't do that. That's going to give you an aligned dimension. We don't want that. We want to go from the center to the point to the point. And when we do the vertical dimension, we're once again going to use the point up to the center point, and that's going to be a vertical dimension of 0.125. And all we have to do now, as you might have guessed, is, let's say horizontal vertical, the center point and the center point. And there we have it. Last one is the top one, and that is a distance of, once again, 0.125 from the top to the center. Oops. And instead of a horizontal dimension, which we do see on our paper, we can tell that it's horizontal vertical. It is vertical with the origin point. So we can just snap it like that. And there we go. 3 completely white circles. Everything's fully dimensioned, ready to finish the sketch. And we can simply extrude those 3 circles, 1, 2, and 3, out a distance of, looks like 0.125. Last thing we need to do is we need to put a chamfer. That is where you're knocking the edge off at an angle. So we're going to put a modify chamfer, and we're going to choose the edges of these 3 circles. Now, when we go to push that in, how far in do we want to go? Well, look, it's giving us an equal distance chamfer right now. However, looking at our drawing in the top right drawing, we see it's a 0.01 times 45 degrees. So we actually want a distance and an angle. And we can change this to 0.01, 0.01, and 45 degrees. That all looks good, so we can say OK. And that's that. Folks, the last part is hollowing out the bottom, and I honestly forgot to do that before we did these little embossments on the front, the debosses on the front. So we should have done that before we debossed, before we extruded. That's okay. Watch what happens when we try to hollow it out with those cutouts. If I use the shell command, it wants you to click on the side that's going to be cut to open it up. So if I cut that and I open it up to a thickness of 0.1, which is what it should be. Now, look, it's not right. It's not looking right. Okay? However, if I cancel that, I can actually go in and cancel. I can hide those. I can actually hide those embossment, the emboss. I can right-click on that, and I can go suppress features, which keeps it in my timeline, but it grays it out and hides it. Same thing with the extrude on the other side. Okay? I'll right-click on that extrude, and I will suppress the features. Now it looks plain like it did at that point in time. I can simply come underneath. I can use the shell feature, shell out the bottom, a thickness of 0.1. That looks good. That looks how it should. Now I can unsuppress those features. Unsuppress them. Uh-oh. It actually doesn't work the way that I want it to. That's what I was afraid of. No worries. We'll just go back and undo those last few things. And I'll try option B. So instead of suppressing those, I'm going to try option B, which is I'm actually going to roll back my marker in time. I'm going to roll back my marker in time to before that embossment. Now, I'm in my time machine. I've gone back in time. I'm at that point where I should have shelled it out, so now I'm going to shell it out. And you get to see me do this a third time, a distance of 0.1. And I say, okay. Now look, I can fast forward in time back to the regular present, and that's what we're looking for. Hopefully this has been a helpful video. Thank you for watching.